Right, isn't it, Amit? I think that's right. So, Mike, were you able to come and join me on stage? Shall I moderate this from the audience? Yeah, who's got a question for Mike? I see a high hand right here.
It's nice to see you, Professor. I met you 15 years ago along with your disciple, Pankaj. Now, I just wanted to ask you, in your 3 parameters, you know, the well-beings and all that, do you think there is a possibility of introducing in the social index the concept of values, attitudes? These are intangible. You may not see improvement in health or education, but this becomes a very important part. And I go back to the report of one of your colleagues, Dr. Stephen Gerali from IMD, Switzerland, and he talked about these things as a soft side of competitiveness, the softer dimension of measuring progress. What do you think about it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's clear that if you get down underneath many of these data, and if you get underneath a lot of the economic rankings as well, and the indicators that we talked about this morning, you know, values, cultural factors, historical norms, all those things actually play a role in what ultimately shows up in the data. And I think I have become a great believer in the power of trying to reshape kind of the culture and values. And there's a variety of ways to do that. And I think we're learning more and more about that process. In my meeting a few hours ago with the Prime Minister, we talked a lot about that, about how you know, the whole cleanliness initiative was really about changing the culture and values. And it was really about getting people better connected to their community and taking some responsibility and some pride, you know, in their community to make it look better. You know, part of it was the cleaning, but part of it was the cultural change that not only would be good for cleaning, but it would be good for a lot of other things in moving ahead and progressing. So on the Social Progress Index, we are now in the beginning of an effort to try to really understand the causal factors that lead to a certain score. And we're moving down to the kind of state, district, county level, but we're also trying to understand the causal factors. Michael, I think, I know people want to hear from me, but why don't you just describe briefly what just happened in Iceland as part of the social progress imperative?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So, I mean, taking the ability to look at performance relative to GDP helps us not look at just which countries are weakest, but which ones are performing best. And then once we know those countries are performing best relative to their GDP, they're doing the best job at turning their GDP into social progress, of all different aspects of social progress, then we can actually start using those as case studies. Why has Costa Rica become this great overperformer in social progress? Why has New Zealand done so well? Why is Rwanda doing well? And then we can start drilling into those case studies. And I think one key piece of learning, and I think it echoes something you said earlier, Mike, is that, like prosperity, social progress is built by a consistent effort over time. That seems to be one of the key learnings. It's not about one policy, one law, one change. It's about a sustained effort over time, seems to be a key learning. It's the beginning of a piece of work on this. The richer the data set we get, we can start looking at states of India. Who's overperforming, who's underperforming, those states that are particularly successful. Are they doing something right that can be copied by someone else? And if we can learn from each other, then we hope that can really help accelerate social progress.
Yeah, I think also our aspiration would be very much to get to the district level as well, if not even smaller. Michael, what is our plan there?
Yep, so I think it's 27 states now, 50 states, and then hopefully more than 500 districts. But definitely getting there, hopefully, within the course of the next year, I think. Yeah. That's set Amit a target, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think we know a lot about economic change. I think what we have less insight in is in the process of social change. How that actually works, how much of it is money, how much of it is culture, how much of it is institutions, government structures, and all that. And we, for the first time ever, we actually have a way of systematically looking at that. Historically, it's just been idiosyncratic examples. And I think one of the reasons why social change has been so uneven is that really there's not a playbook of how you do this. And the challenge is to write that playbook. And that's what this general effort is. And I think, interestingly, what Mr. Kant just talked about was absolutely the same fundamental philosophy that drove us, some years ago to build the whole social progress movement. It's what's exciting to see is just how much it matters. I mean, look at how much change there's been so quickly once it was available, once it was public, once it was out there. In a way, what a wonderful symbol of how measurement matters. And so we take a lot of excitement away from hearing about this and feeling it directly and hearing it from Mr. Kant and others.
Right. Lady here.
Mr. Michael, just I want to ask one thing, that it's very clear that we are all excited to go with the global strategy and other things. Then who will be the connector actually? The government or the industry or the general people? And how will we manage that rules and regulation? What is the optimum and what is not the optimum? Who is going to decide that? Means parameters. See whether we are doing it in a level of a global or not.
You mean on the structure of the index? Well, who decides?
Right. Because we have many taboo in the society. If we talk about social progress in India, we have many taboos. So how we have to cope up with that all? Because we have to break that all, Do
you want me to go?
Yeah,
have a go?
give a shot at that, because I wasn't quite tracking.
So the basic social progress index framework, those 12 components, builds on an extensive literature. It builds on existing agreements, sustainable development goals, UN Declaration on Human Rights, and lots of consultation. And so that framework, we think, is a pretty good general definition of social progress. We know that we're never all going to agree about social progress, but we think what we have is a pretty robust definition that goes through, that's been tested quite extensively. Feedback is always welcome, so we'll welcome the feedback. Then what we do is we take the indicators to measure those 12 concepts. Right. So for this India index, it's been the Institute for Competitiveness have really tried to customize that index so it's really reflecting the Indian reality while also measuring those concepts. So we're trying to get the best of both worlds, which is that if you produce an index that's not SPI, that's just made for a local context, it may really reflect local values, but it's got no comparability.
Right.
Whereas if you use SPI, but with local customization, you're trying to get the best of both worlds.
True, in each sector, you have to.
Yeah. Cool. Now, look, I think we've got a little time and a small, certainly a cluster of questions here. Mike, I suggest we take a few questions and then, in series, then you take a few of them. So there's a gentleman here, there's a gentleman here, and here, so we've got a few. So let's do a bunch of questions quickly, and Mike will answer as many as he can as possible. Please.
Yeah, my question is about enterprise of people. By enterprise, I don't mean economic enterprise, but will the general tendency of a country's people with respect to how enterprising they are in taking on opportunities, is that a strong factor that will have an impact on SPI?
I have a question, Michael, with you. Could you kindly tell me how far your framework is different from Buchanan and Clark? Is it not the same kind of thing that you are giving now?
Hey, Michael, could you help me with that one?
I'm not sure we're familiar with that framework, sir. Can you tell us any more about what that framework? Well, maybe we can speak offline. No, maybe we can answer that one offline. Sir, you question.
Yeah. We got a 50 billion trade deficit with the China. Generally, the goods are being imported from China to India. How to break that glass so that we start manufacturing in our own country or kind of so that we have the competitiveness and manufacturing and all those things.
Okay. Here, please.
Just having a hard time understanding from India?
May I ask one question? Yeah. Yeah, basically, I want to ask like we are seeing that transforming India, like small businesses are becoming big. Okay, though, and at the same time, our Prime Minister talking about, more entrepreneurs in our country. So I would like to ask Professor Porter, like what should be the right strategy? Should we promote a big business house or we should promote a small entrepreneur to have a better SPI?
Excellent. Good question. Lady next to you. So big business or small enterprise? Madam.
So thank you, Dr. Porter. We've had a very productive day, I must say that. So the question was, we understand sustainability as a balance between economy, ecology, and society. I see the ecology part of it sort of under foundation of well-being here. So doesn't this dilute the focus on ecology? And when we progress, I think ecology, especially when we look at emerging countries, this is also a very important aspect. So I'd like some clarification on that, please.
Great, thank you. If you could pass it forward to the gentleman here, and then we've got one more over here.
Good evening, sir. I have just a small question that when we are saying that the SPI would help us move in the upward direction in the social ladder, which involves a lot of reskilling of the existing population, how would SPI pinpoint what is to be reskilled in helping, like I'm from the education sector, how will it help us identify such points?
Okay, now this is chap one very quick, sir.
Hi Mike, great to have you here. My question is around the competitiveness that has been talked about. During the day we have talked about a lot of competition, a lot of ranking to be done, etc. Even your earlier books talks about competitive advantage, how to create it. For Indian industry, so because of this competitive advantage creating, everybody is trying to create their own competitiveness by keeping a lot of things to their chest control. Now, the question is, how does it blend with the synergistic approach of creating competitiveness for the country? What would be your advice to the Indian industry? Should they work absolutely in isolation for creating their own competitiveness, or should they work together with these other competitors in the same industry in a collaborative manner so that they can create competitiveness for India vis-a-vis the global world?
Mike, that's a lot of different questions. I think pick what you wish,
Okay,
and then we have to wrap up.
I didn't understand the one on education. What was that?
So there was the importance of education in social progress and competitiveness.
And what was the question?
That's the question, sir?
I didn't quite know what question came
What was exactly the question?
So my question was that when we are saying that with the SPI it will help in the upward movement in the society, it will need a lot of reskilling of the existing population, let it be the youth. So how would SPI help us pinpoint the highlighting points in which we need to reskill people?
Okay, so where to reskill?
Okay, well, thank you for all those questions. And I'm sorry, the way the acoustics feel up here, it's very hard for me to, I'm usually really good at understanding many different accents, but I didn't today grasp everything. So I'm going to take my best shot, and hopefully that will intersect with the questions. I think the idea of enterprise of people and the significance of that, I think there's, in a way, that's everything. You've got to get people at a very grassroots level, believing that what they do matters and that they can advance themselves or their family. And I was talking to the Prime Minister earlier about this effort to kind of do very, very small-scale entrepreneurship, where money, could be borrowed for just a family or a person to build a little single business with one employee, which is that person, and how that effort has led to a tremendous amount of entrepreneurship. And that's really very much enterprise at the grassroots level. And I think in India, there's a tremendous opportunity for that. There's just lots of needs that people have, you know, babysitting, childcare, helping people make meals, you know, there's all kinds of needs, household improvement, and, you know, what we have today starting to happen is really the, in a way, the democratization of starting a little business. Right now in the US, you know, it starts with Uber. Anybody can be a driver. All you have to do is, if you have a car, and that's a big deal, but if you have a car, all you have to do is call and you can be a driver, you can be an employee, you can have a business, which is driving. And you can drive whenever you feel like. You can drive in the middle of the night, you can drive during the day, you can drive after work. And the computer and digital technology allows us to sort of grassroots build lots of little businesses, which are people driving their cars for compensation. We have another big movement for people who are clever at certain kinds of things, you know, painting or repair of appliances, where we now can go online and find out, you know, who's available and look at their references and then hire somebody. You don't have to go to the plumbing company. You know, you can find individuals now with the web. We can sort of create very much bottoms-up little business activity just because of the information that can be posted and creating sort of the marketplace so that you can find somebody to help you whatever you need help on. We have in our country, we have people, you can go online, and if you want somebody to be a tour guide in Washington, D.C., that can take you through the Capitol and tell you about the history, you don't have to go to a travel company. You can just go online and find that person now. So I think as India gets more digital, this idea of grassroots entrepreneurship, grassroots job creation one by one, rather than necessarily big businesses, I think this is a phenomenal opportunity to change the game. And as people get the sense that they can participate in the economy and that they have an opportunity to be employed, you know, many people think that the best job is to work for yourself, to be self-employed. I think this is a game changer, and we have to bring this kind of approach to India. And I think this idea is percolating, and hopefully we'll see more of this. So I think that individuals and the way they think and the way they aspire and the way they're willing to do things is critical to competitiveness and economic development. In terms of the question of competitive advantage and should companies pool their advantage, or should they sort of try to hold it for themselves? I think what we found is that the best way to improve is competition. And so getting everybody together and sort of sharing all of their advantage doesn't necessarily lead to very rapid progress. And so I would say that although there is some duplication, and although there is some duplicate investment, what we find works is we want the vitality of people trying to do better than the other guy, not trying to be on the level playing field. And so we're seeing. So I come away from all the work I've done a great believer in competition, and good companies study their competitors. They figure out what they're doing. They spend a lot of time and effort on that, and then they try to do it better or do it differently in a way that gives them a unique competitive advantage. So that's the model that I think works the best, as best I can tell, in the literature. So those are two of the questions. The question here about sustainability and economy and ecology. I said this, I think I said this, but what I found from my research is there's no conflict between ecology and economy. That what we're learning is that actually if you're good at ecology, it's going to help your economy. if you can use natural resources most efficiently and minimize the impact that you have, you'll be more efficient and more profitable. I wrote a paper many years ago in Scientific American, and I made the crazy idea that having strict regulation of the environment wasn't bad for business. It might even be good for business, because it would lead to business innovation, more efficient use of resources, lower emissions, lower waste. And every economist in the world wrote nasty letters about that. And now that we've studied this for 25 years, we're all agreeing there is no conflict. Now, in some cases there is. In some cases, economic activity, the impact of that cannot be minimized or eliminated. But in most cases, we find that we shouldn't start out thinking that we have to make a trade-off between ecology and economy. I think increasingly we've got to start out with the idea that we can actually progress on both, and that I think it's well understood now that economy that cares about ecology is going to be more successful economy, and I think that's a powerful insight that has emerged over the last 15 or 20 years. Again, you're going to always find a few conflicts, but I think technology is a marvelous thing. We have enormous improvements in technology. We have enormous improvements in how to minimize impacts. I think we need to, rather than try to tell citizens, well, to be economically good, we have to give up our standard of living. I think that doesn't sell very well. I think we have to inspire people to use innovation and insight and technology to advance all the goals of society simultaneously. So, I'm increasingly finding that that's not just a dream, that is an actual reality. There's a lot of literature on that, and that has emerged over the years. So, are we out of time? Okay, well, you want to come up and be our MC?
Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.